Before 1996, batteries worked. Not perfectly, not forever. But if you put a Duracell in a flashlight and left it in your garage for 2 years, the battery would be dead when you came back to it. But the flashlight would be fine. The contacts would be clean. The springs would be intact. You would replace the battery and move on with your life. That is not what happens anymore. Today, if you leave a battery in a device for 2 years, there is a reasonable chance you will open the compartment and find a chemical disaster. A white crystalline crust eating through the brass contacts, corroding the springs, and bonding to the inside of the tube like calcium buildup in a pipe. The battery did not just die, it ruptured. And the potassium hydroxide electrolyte inside it destroyed the device on its way out. Duracell, the most recognized battery brand on the planet, has been the subject of multiple federal class action lawsuits over this exact failure. Consumers in Massachusetts and California allege that copper-top batteries leaked during normal use and normal storage, destroying electronics while still within their printed expiration date. The courts dismissed both suits. A judge ruled that Duracell's 10-year guarantee is a promise to replace the battery, not a promise that it will not eat through your $200 weather station. But here is the part that nobody in the battery industry wants to explain. The batteries your father bought in the 1980s genuinely did not do this as often. And the reason is a law that Congress passed in 1996 that changed the chemistry of every alkaline battery in America. For decades, every alkaline cell contained a small amount of mercury, not as a power source, but as a chemical bodyguard. The mercury formed a thin coating on the zinc anode inside the battery, and that coating suppressed the hydrogen gas that naturally builds as the cell discharges. When that gas pressure exceeds the seal's capacity, the seal ruptures and the caustic electrolyte escapes. Mercury was the only thing keeping the lid on. The Mercury-Containing and Rechargeable Battery Management Act of 1996 banned mercury from consumer alkaline batteries. The environmental reasoning was sound. Mercury is toxic and should not be entering landfills by the billions, but the industry was supposed to develop replacement technology that would prevent the leaking. They substituted cheaper alternatives. The alternatives do not work as well. And in the nearly 30 years since, not one major manufacturer has solved the problem. The question is why? And the answer, at least for the company that controls 40% of the American battery market, is in the ownership history. Duracell has been bought and sold 6 times since 1978. Dart Industries acquired it and merged with Kraft. Kraft sold it to the private equity firm Kohlberg Kravis Roberts in a $1.8 billion leveraged buyout. KKR flipped it to Gillette for $7 billion. Procter & Gamble swallowed Gillette for $57 billion, inheriting Duracell as a side dish. And in 2016, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway acquired Duracell in a $4.7 billion stock swap so that Buffett could unload his P&G shares without triggering capital gains tax. 6 owners in 4 decades. Each one extracted value. None of them fixed the chemistry. The batteries got worse. The marketing got louder. And every time someone opens a corroded flashlight or a ruined remote, the manufacturer's answer is the same. Buy more batteries. But the leaking is only the problem you can see. The second betrayal is invisible, and the industry has made sure it stays that way. Every alkaline battery starts losing power the moment it rolls off the production line. The zinc inside the cell corrodes through a process called self-discharge, bleeding roughly 2 to 3% of its stored energy per month at room temperature. A battery manufactured in January and purchased in December has already lost close to 30% of its capacity before you tear open the blister pack. Raise the storage temperature to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of heat inside a shipping container crossing the Pacific or a warehouse in Dallas without climate control, and that rate roughly doubles. A battery that sat in a hot stockroom for 18 months may have already lost half its energy before anyone touched it, and there is no federal standard requiring a readable manufacturing date on consumer batteries. The date codes are intentionally cryptic. One manufacturer uses a letter for the month and a single digit for the year. Another buries the date inside a 12-digit serial number. The tire industry solved this identical problem decades ago with a standardized 4-digit code mandated by the Department of Transportation. The battery industry looked at that solution and chose not to adopt it. Because a fresh battery and a stale battery look identical on the shelf, if you cannot tell the difference, you blame the device, not the battery. You assume things have gotten worse, and you buy more. This means the same Duracell you grab at Costco, where inventory turns over in days, is a chemically different product than the identical Duracell sitting in a gas station in Phoenix, where it may have been baking for 2 years. Same copper top, same logo, same expiration date. Completely different charge inside the cell. The brand was never the variable. The supply chain was. If this is changing how you think about the batteries in your house, hit subscribe. We investigate the products and industries that do not want you looking behind the label. Now, there is a small community of people who already know everything we just told you. They run battery testing channels on YouTube. They post discharge curves on forums with names like Budget Light Forum and Candle Power. They have been testing, measuring, and arguing about batteries for over a decade. And they have quietly converged on the same 5 products. Here is what they buy. Number 1. Energizer Ultimate Lithium. The chemistry inside this battery is lithium iron disulfide, which has nothing in common with the alkaline cells we just discussed. There is no potassium hydroxide inside. Nothing to leak, nothing to corrode. The self-discharge rate is so low that Energizer guarantees usable power after 20 years in storage. It weighs 1/3 less than alkaline, and it functions from -40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it works in your garage in January and in your glove box in August. In Project Farm's test of 16 AA brands running identical fan motors, the Energizer Ultimate Lithium nearly doubled the runtime of the best alkaline batteries in the lineup. The cost is roughly $1 per cell, compared to 35 cents for cheap alkaline. But a single leaked alkaline can destroy a $75 flashlight, a $150 weather station, or a $300 camera. At $1 per battery, this is not the expensive option. Put these in your smoke detectors, your emergency kit, and your medical devices. Forget about them for a decade. Number 2. Panasonic Eneloop Rechargeable. This battery has a cult following, and the cult is justified. In 2005, a team at Sanyo in Japan introduced a rechargeable nickel metal hydride cell that solved the one problem that had made rechargeables impractical for 20 years. Older rechargeable batteries lost their charge within weeks of leaving the charger. You would charge them, put them in a drawer, and they would be dead by the time you needed them. The Eneloop fixed this with a modified alloy that retains 70% of its charge after sitting in a drawer for 10 years. One independent tester discharged a sealed set that had been sitting in original packaging for over a decade. They still held 60% capacity. Nobody else has matched that. The Eneloop is still manufactured at the same FDK factory in Japan where it was born. You can recharge the standard version 2,100 times. There is no potassium hydroxide, so the leaking problem does not exist. Buy the white version, not the Black Pro. A 4-pack costs about $15. Over its lifetime, that $15 replaces roughly $600 in disposable alkaline for a single high-drain device like a game controller. Number 3. IKEA Lada Rechargeable. This recommendation is going to annoy everyone who just paid $15 for Eneloops. The Ladia is sold exclusively at IKEA for roughly $7 per 4-pack, less than half the Eneloop price. And in testing, It performs almost identically. The widely held theory in battery testing communities is that the Lithium AA comes from the same FDK factory in Japan that produces the Eneloop. The discharge curves overlap. The capacity figures match. Project Farm ran a 6-year rechargeable battery test, cycling 10 brands through outdoor solar lights for over 300 charge and discharge cycles. After 6 years of daily use, the IKEA Lada retained 2,385 milliamp hours. That was the best result of any battery tested. The Eneloop came in at 1,874. The Duracell rechargeable measured 259, which is functionally dead. An $8 battery outlasted a $15 battery and killed a $12 battery in the longest independent rechargeable test ever published on YouTube. If you have an IKEA within driving distance, stop buying anything else for your daily use devices. Number 4. Rayovac Fusion for disposable alkaline. This is the battery that most Americans have never heard of, and it beats the ones they have been buying their entire lives. In Project Farm's latest comprehensive AA test, the Rayovac Fusion posted the highest capacity of any alkaline battery at 2,498 milliamp hours, more than Duracell Copper Top, more than Energizer Max, more than every store brand in the lineup. Rayovac manufactures these at a plant in Wisconsin that has been producing batteries for over a century. The price is roughly 83 cents per cell, and here is the twist that every Duracell loyalist needs to hear. CinemaSound, an audio production company that ran its own battery testing, discovered that Duracell ProCell, the commercial line marketed as the premium professional choice, actually lasted 31% less time than regular Duracell Copper Top. The premium product is the worst product. Rayovac Fusion costs less than both and delivers more capacity than both. You have never heard of it because Rayovac does not spend $100 million a year on advertising. They spent the money on the battery instead. Number 5. Kirkland Signature from Costco for bulk household alkaline. Kirkland batteries are manufactured by Duracell under contract. Same factories, same chemistry, different label, lower price. A 48-pack costs about $17 versus $25 for Energizer Max. In Project Farm's fan test, the Kirkland ran for 7 hours and 29 minutes. Energizer Max ran for 8 hours and 3 minutes. A 30-minute difference on a battery that costs 40% less. But the real reason Costco makes this list is the supply chain. Costco moves inventory faster than any other retailer in America. Those batteries are not sitting in a stockroom for a year and a half. They rotate in days, which means the Kirkland you pick up this weekend has lost less charge to self-discharge than the same Duracell at a gas station where the stock has not moved since last summer. Freshness is the variable nobody talks about, and Costco delivers it by accident. Use Energizer Ultimate Lithium for devices where failure is dangerous or expensive. Use Panasonic Eneloop or IKEA Lada for everything you use daily. Use Rayovac Fusion when you need disposable alkaline and want the longest life per cell. Use Kirkland from Costco for bulk household needs, where freshness and price both matter. Before you install any battery, check the expiration date on the package and subtract 10 years. That is roughly when it was manufactured. If it is more than 2 years old, you are starting at a 30% deficit. Before 1996, batteries did not corrode inside your flashlight. They died quietly, and you replaced them. After 1996, the mercury was gone. The replacement was inadequate, and the company that owns 40% of the market was too busy being sold to its 6th owner to fix the problem. Duracell has been owned by a private equity firm, a razor company, a soap company, and a holding conglomerate worth $900 billion. The leaking has not been fixed. The date codes remain unreadable. The company that Warren Buffett described as having top quality products when he signed the $4.7 billion deal has been sued in federal court by the people who actually use them. That is not a battery company. That is a brand licensing operation with a shelf space monopoly. And every year, they are counting on you to grab the copper top without checking the date, without knowing the chemistry, and without realizing that a $7 4-pack from IKEA would have saved you hundreds of dollars and never once corroded inside your kid's toy. Now you know. Check the chemistry. Check the date. Check who owns the name. And stop paying a premium for a brand that has been passed around like a poker chip for 40 years. If you found this investigation valuable, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are going deeper into the everyday products that are engineered to fail faster than you think.